9. Don't mess with Rite Aid. In October of 2022, a Rite Aid shopper noticed a bearded man stealing items from the store without even trying to hide what he was doing. So she repeatedly asked him, "Are you for real?" It caught the attention of an employee who waited by the door as he approached the exit with his haul of stolen goods. The worker thwarted the man's repeated attempts to leave the store by blocking him. When he continued to try and escape, the employee body slammed the shoplifter. In viral footage of the takedown, he can be heard saying, "Drop the bag, bro, and we'll let you go." The shoplifter clearly didn't want to comply, so the employee took matters into his own hands. He wrapped his arms around the thief and brought him to the floor with a leg sweep. He then held him on the ground as he continued to demand that he give up the bag of stolen items. Finally, the thief gave in and handed over the merchandise, and the worker let him get up and leave. In another viral video from 2017, a Rite Aid employee from Hillsboro, Oregon, tried to take some stolen items from a shoplifter's purse. A tug of war ensued, and the fight eventually spilled over into the parking lot. The woman threw punches and tried to bite the worker while he continued to restrain her. She finally gave up and let him have her purse as the police arrived to arrest her. 8. Araceli Sotelo. While working alone at a Subway in Rockford, Illinois in 2021, Araceli Sotelo was confronted by a masked thief who came into the restaurant demanding money. She told the Daily Mail that the man flashed his gun, which triggered her fight or flight response. Sotelo told the thief to leave and said she didn't have any money, but the robber persisted with his demand for cash, instructing her to give him everything or he would hurt her. In surveillance footage of the encounter, Sotelo can be heard screaming at the man to get out of the restaurant. When he ignored her and grabbed her purse, she began to wrestle him and dragged him out from behind the counter. During the struggle, the man dropped Sotelo's purse and his gun on the floor. He picked up the purse, but Sotelo managed to get the gun in her hands. She then hit him in the head with the weapon while ordering him to drop the bag. The fight continued as she pulled the hoodie's thief off so she could get a look at his face. At some point, the man ran off with Sotelo's bag. She ended up getting suspended from her job when videos of the robbery surfaced online. Her manager told her she couldn't return to work until the footage was taken down, but she wasn't the one who posted it and had no control over it. She told the Rockford Register-Star that she'd only been working at the restaurant for a month before the incident occurred, and that she was never trained on how to respond to a robbery. Many social media users commended her handling of the situation and were happy to donate to a crowdfunding campaign to help Sotelo cover her lost wages. 7. Family fights back. During a disturbing spike in robberies throughout Los Angeles in 2022, a masked thief stormed into the Princess Bride diamond jewelry store inside a shopping mall in Huntington Beach, California. He smashed a display case and was followed by 3 other masked bandits who entered the store with bags to fill with stolen goods. However, they never got the opportunity to carry out their plan. Lily Ochoa, a store employee, rushed out from behind the counter and shoved one of the thieves away from the smashed case. She fought relentlessly, repeatedly kicking the robber in the gut. Just seconds later, she was joined by another worker who helped take on the gang. At the same time, the store's owner's son, Dallas Baca, emerged from the back room and punched one of the suspects, knocking him to the ground. Dallas's sister, Sarah Baca, soon jumped into the chaos and picked up a chair, smashing it over one of the thieves who had been pushed out and was trying to get back into the store. During the struggle, she was struck in the head with a hammer, but she kept on fighting. Sarah later told local station KTLA that she was so fueled by adrenaline that she was unfazed by the hit to her temple. All the bandits were eventually pushed out of the store and luckily nothing was stolen. The employees then closed the doors and locked them, preventing anyone else from getting inside. Customers applauded the heroic team who fearlessly fought the robbers off, showing that the area's disturbing uptick in armed robberies won't be tolerated. Police investigated the incident, but the suspects are still at large. 6. Thomas Michael Gordon. In September of 2022, a mother was getting her baby out of their car seat outside a Chick-fil-A restaurant in the Florida Panhandle when a criminal with a sharpened plank approached her and demanded the keys to her vehicle. Before she could respond, he yanked the keys off the woman's waistband and got into the car. 26-year-old Chick-fil-A employee Thomas Michael Gordon overheard her screams and rushed outside. He took down the attempted carjacker, and the pair wrestled as other employees and onlookers gathered. Gordon put the man in a headlock and restrained him until help arrived. Deputies arrested 43-year-old William Branch on suspicion of burglary, battery, and armed carjacking. Okaloosa Sheriff Eric Aiden awarded Gordon's bravery and quick response with a certificate of service and a coin that represents special achievements. But surprisingly, this wasn't the first time Gordon was hailed as a hero. Just a few years earlier, he ran outside the restaurant and pulled a girl from a wrecked vehicle. He also brought ice and towels to another girl who was trapped inside. 5. Latife Pekka. 47-year-old mother of 3 and bakery employee Latife Pekka was cleaning the counter at her workplace in the Netherlands when an armed robber burst in with a meat cleaver in his hand. She initially backed away, but when she saw him trying to get into the cash register, her instinct to protect the business kicked in. Pekka began slapping the thief with her trusty cleaning rag, possibly trying to phase him with a face full of chemicals and dust. He fought back, but she held her own against the criminal despite his advantages of being younger and bigger. The two wrestled it out for a few seconds before the thief gave up and fled the bakery. On his way out, he tried to punch a customer who was entering the store. The would-be robber then sped away on his bike, empty-handed. After going back outside to assess the situation, the customer re-entered the store and checked on Pekka to make sure she was okay. Thankfully, nobody was injured during the attempted theft. While being interviewed by the local media, Pekka said she wasn't thinking about her own life being in danger when she sprang into action. She also explained that she didn't notice the thief was carrying a meat cleaver before she charged at him, determined not to let him get away with any money. 4. James Sue. In 2022, James Sue was ambushed by a gun-wielding thief at his auto care business in the Chicago suburbs of Portage Park, and the whole thing was recorded by surveillance cameras. James had noticed the man pacing around outside a few minutes before the attempted robbery, but he didn't think too much into it. He was on a conference call when the man barged into the building and pointed a gun at him. At first, James put his hands up and calmly told the man that he needed a key to open the cash drawer. James was an experienced gun owner, and he noticed that the bandit seemed to struggle with the firearm. While he didn't have his own weapon on him that day, he could tell that the slide on the thief's gun was in a position that made it impossible to shoot. Without warning, James tried to grab the firearm, but instead knocked it out of the man's hand and onto the floor. He ran out from behind the counter and chased after the robber, even after the man grabbed the gun and continued to point it at him. During a brief struggle at the building's entrance, James managed to disarm the bandit, who finally gave up and ran away. He turned it over to the police, who investigated the incident but failed to make any arrests. Speaking with Block Club Chicago, James said that he was acting out of emotion. He explained that while he's received training on how to respond to a robbery, he said that he doesn't recommend reacting the way he did, which could easily put someone's life in further danger. He described feeling frustrated by the encounter, especially because it was the second time in a month that a criminal targeted his business, which was finally starting to bounce back after 2 years of pandemic-related financial struggles. Unfortunately, his experience wasn't unique, and many other business owners were feeling similar pain as armed robbery rates skyrocketed throughout the country. 3. Fed-up employees. Workers at a Family Dollar store in Charlotte, North Carolina, had already dealt with 2 shoplifters on the same day in 2022, when a third thief came into the building and loaded up on some of the store's more expensive items. One of the staff members reacted by going on the intercom and letting the thief and everyone else in the store know that he was being watched and could see what he was doing. The shoplifter noticed the employees locking the business's doors, so he made a run for it with the stolen goods. He fought back as 3 workers tried to stop him from leaving the store. Bystanders stepped in to help as the struggle spilled out into the sidewalk, but eventually the thief gave up and left the scene empty-handed. Rich Jones, a customer who recorded the confrontation on his phone, told Queen City News that a worker was injured from being thrown against the glass. He acknowledged the employee's admirable attempts to stop the thief, but said he felt unsafe being locked inside the store with the criminal, especially because he had his child with him. He said that he would continue shopping at Family Dollar, but that he wouldn't be returning to that particular location anytime soon. 2. Johnny Nguyen. Johnny Nguyen was at his smoke shop in Las Vegas in August of 2022 when 3 suspicious individuals entered the store in the middle of the day. He knew he was about to be robbed when he noticed they were dressed in all black and had masks on to hide their faces. One of the men took the store's tip jar while the other hopped over the counter. Fearing for his life, Johnny grabbed a knife and fought back. Surveillance footage shows the business owner stabbing one of the suspects during a physical struggle. As soon as he was able to, Johnny dialed 911 and reported the crime. He told local station KVVU that the incident made him fearful of another violent encounter, and that he planned to get a gun in case he needed to protect himself in the future. The thieves turned out to be a trio of troubled teenagers whose parents had desperately tried to get them help for years. The young man who was stabbed recovered in the hospital for months, while one of his accomplices was sent to a juvenile correctional facility for his part in the crime. The teen's defense attorney implored Judge Sonny Bailey to consider his history of severe abuse at the hands of his birth parents and the trauma that followed. He also explained that the young man resorted to self-medicating in order to cope with his problems. Bailey opted to lock him up, citing the defendant's history of previous crimes including a bomb threat. And the judge pointed out the numerous chances the court had given the teen to clean up his act. The third suspect's father asked not for leniency, but for proper help for his son. Judge Bailey sent the teen to a residential youth camp geared toward helping young criminals re-enter society. 1. James Craig Cope. During the early morning hours in Los Angeles on July 31, 2022, an SUV rolled up to a Norco liquor store. Then, 4 masked thieves, one armed with a rifle, poured out of the vehicle and entered the business. The store's owner, 80-year-old James Craig Cope, immediately noticed that one of the men had a gun, so he fired a single shot from his own firearm. The suspect then ran back out to the SUV screaming that Cope had shot his arm off, and the vehicle fled the scene. After the incident, Cope told the local press that he didn't think of his actions as heroic, and said that he would expect anyone else in his situation to react similarly. In his own words, it was either him or me. Police found the suspects in a stolen vehicle outside a nearby hospital, where one of them was receiving treatment for the gunshot wound. The 3 uninjured suspects, 22-year-old Justin Johnson, 27-year-old Jamal Williams, and 24-year-old Devon Broadus, were taken into custody and charged with attempted robbery, elder abuse, and carrying a stolen loaded gun in public. They pleaded not guilty, and at the moment their cases are ongoing. In the meantime, the 4th suspect, 23-year-old Rashid Deshaun Lee Belvin, remained hospitalized in stable but critical condition. He was released a few weeks later and taken to jail on the same charges as his co-defendants, along with additional charges for being the one responsible for holding the gun during the attempted robbery. Belvin's attorney requested home detention, but the judge kept him behind bars on $500,000 bail like the rest of the suspects, who are currently being held at separate facilities. Would you rather be hailed as a hero for fighting off an armed thief at a local business, or credited with giving investigators the evidence needed to help solve a cold case? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.